Thanks for tuning in, guys. It's the Pest and Lawn Ginja, and today we're going over all things necrotic ring spot. Now, do you guys have any funny shapes or patterns that are running through your lawn like this? Well, you may have necrotic ring spot, and it is a frustrating booger to get out. Now, you might be familiar with my 5-step diagnostic approach, and this falls under the color and pattern category. Let's take a closer look. Necrotic ring spot can be difficult to spot and difficult to diagnose if you're not familiar with it. Now, it's identified by the horseshoe and circular patterns that it's going to make throughout the lawn. Now, commonly, necrotic ring is going to start off in one small area of the lawn and kind of make its way outward over the course of years and years. Now, if it goes untreated, it will go from ring spots to bigger size blobs. Notoriously, necrotic ring spot will reinvade the same areas of your lawn every single season, and it will demonstrate a similar pattern every single season as well. So if you follow my 5-step approach, I'm always determining pattern, whether it's uniform or random. Now, with necrotic ring spot, these patterns are always random. They're going to be subject to specific spots in the lawn. If I were to guess, this necrotic ring spot's probably 7 to 8 years in, but you can see the distinctive patterns. Circle here, and then the beginning of it is horseshoe. Now, the interesting thing about necrotic ring spot is it can sit dormant for up to 10 years before even demonstrating in the lawn. Now, the majority of the lawns affected are going to be a Kentucky bluegrass more than anything, but there are other variants of grasses that are affected. Now, your actual fungal layer is around the ring from the outside edge to the inside edge on both sides. Now, these nodes get attached from the soil into the grass, and it's not actually the grass that is the ultimate carrier of the fungus, it's the soil. The fungus is demonstrated through the grass. Now, one of the number one things I hear homeowners tell me all the time about necrotic ring spots is, "Oh, Ginja, don't worry about it. I'm thinking about just ripping it out and putting all fresh sod in." Well, that'd be fine and dandy, but the problem is with necrotic ring spot is the fungal layer is 3 feet deep into the soil. And so even if you do dig a foot of dirt out, replace it all, put new sod in, within 2 years, the fungus is really back and active again. A lot of you guys are stuck on the question, how and why did I get this fungus? And that is a very important question. Now, I've been through several of the University Extensions Department's longitudinal studies, and they all suggest the causation is overuse of urea fertilizer. Now, urea is a quick release fertilizer. It was never designed to become a primary fertilizer. And over time, because it's a little bit cheaper per pound of N, it's become the primary ingredient of a lot of fertilizers. Now, another way that I see people getting it is when they use the same aeration machine on one lawn and they spread it from one lawn to a next. And I've seen neighborhoods where it's spread through the entire neighborhood that way. Necrotic ring spot is active when the soil temps reach between 60 and 63 degrees Fahrenheit. That means that there's 2 seasons for necrotic ring every year, when the soil temperatures are coming up and also when the soil temperatures are going down. Considering every region is going to have a different soil temperature, it's important that you have the right tool for the job. Now, I prefer the Taylor digital meat thermometer because it has a probe that goes 3 inches down and will accurately read the soil within a few seconds. Now, it's important to remember the different parts of your yard are going to have different temperatures as well, and you need to monitor this like a hawk. Anytime you get within that 60 to 63 degrees Fahrenheit, the fungus is actively growing. Having a solid water management program will help you stay out of those 60 to 63 degree temperatures as well. Now, we want deep water saturation, 6 to 8 inches, but we don't want to water more than 2 to 3 times per week. This will also help increase the oxygen and airflow through the plant, thus avoiding the further spread of necrotic ring spot. Managing debris and thatch levels is a very important part to controlling necrotic ring spot. Technically, the pathogen survives as mycelium in dead and decaying root tissues, which explains why aeration spreads the fungus. Patching and repairing the necrotic ring spots is an essential part of moving forward in the process. Understandably, the pathogen does survive in that dead area, and without removing it, it's just going to get worse as the years progress. Removing the debris can cause some channeling or loss of dirt and tunneling through these areas. So what I like to do is mix up a 50-50 blend of topsoil and sand and mix in some seeds as a nice patch kit to repair the areas. Choosing the correct seed that will properly match and manage the necrotic ring spot is very important. My suggestion is to find a cultivar of Kentucky bluegrass like Kentucky Bluegrass Midnight or Eclipse and mix it with a perennial ryegrass. Now, after you've completed finishing your patch kits, I highly recommend that you overseed the entire lawn. There's nothing worse than having patchy areas that look completely different than the other lawn. And if you introduce the new grass seed in, it will match nicely. Now, the first step to managing necrotic ring spot is increasing the porosity of the soil so we can get better oxygen transfer. Now, that's just a fancy way to say that we want to make sure that the air and water can freely flow up and down through the dirt, that it doesn't stay too compacted. Making some fundamental changes in your regular fertilizer regimens is key to your success. Number one, you want to start introducing humates into your mix. Now, humates help slough sediment off of the root bases and really help things breathe. Now, it's also an available source to the plant, so it helps with the uptake of nutrients into the plant as well. Now, the other thing is introducing calcium. Now, if you're a low pH, you need to be looking at lime. If you're at a neutral pH, you need to be looking at calcium nitrate. And if you're at a high pH like I am, you're going to be focusing on using gypsum as your calcium source. Now, the reason why we do this is because it helps open the pores of the clay and of the soil and helps increase oxygen and nutrient flow through the plant. Now, a great source of humates is the Essentials Plus 101. However, it is expensive and there are cheaper ways to do it. Whether you do a liquid humate or a granular humate, it doesn't matter. What matters most is following the label and making sure that it goes down as a soil treatment. Now, keep in mind we're amending the soil, meaning we're making minor changes. So if you want to increase the porosity, you can also use penetrants like surfactants or adjuvants or soaps by applying them regularly. It's important to be consistent. Each application is going to make a minor change. So over the course of a couple of years, we make big changes as a result of all our compounding treatments. We're going to want to make a few changes to your fertilizer treatments. Number one, we want to avoid urea or quick release fertilizers. Ginja's preference is to microdose or microfeed the lawn every 4 weeks as opposed to 8 weeks. By doing so, I can get away with a 1/4 pound of nitrogen every 4 weeks as opposed to a full pound of nitrogen every 8 weeks. There's some added benefits to using 50% less nitrogen. Number one, you don't get the ups and downs in color. It stays an even green. And second of all, it doesn't grow out of control and you end up having to mow less often. Now, it's important to remember that fungicides cause forced uptake of nutrients from the soil. So you need to make sure that you're replenishing the soil nutrients on a regular basis, and increasing the amount of micronutrients you have in the tank is a must. Now, the cheapest way to get micronutrients at this point is through a product called RGS through greencountyfert.com. Products and links will be available in the description of the video. Increasing humates and calcium is a fantastic start. Ultimately, most of us are going to have to manage our necrotic ring spot with use of fungicides. Now, it's important to understand that there are certain types of fungicides that fall within the same category. Now, we need to have these on a rotation. Ideally, we don't want to use the same fungicide in the same group more than twice in one season. We want to have these on a regular rotation. Now, I've applied a link into the description of the video for the frac.info website where they list the Frac Code lists. Now, the Frac Codes were designed to help us make sure that we don't use the same types of fungicides in an effort for resistance management. Meaning, if you use one type of fungicide, the disease gets used to it and it no longer works. To keep this simple, your active ingredient is tied to a mode of action. That mode of action is simply put is how the fungicide attacks the fungus. Now that active ingredient is attached to a Frac Code. Now for instance, our Frac Code here is number 1. I wouldn't want to use number 1 and number 10 back to back in the same calendar year because they're associated with the same mode of action. Now it's important to look these up. You'll see by this one in Frac Code Group 3, we have 3 active ingredients that fall within the same mode of action. Now by the comments, you can see that puts you in a medium risk. Now, luckily for you, the Ginja's got it all figured out. All you need to look at is the description of the video, and I've got links to everything. Now, I find that the majority of people are most comfortable with a granular solution. So what I've done is I've pulled a couple of different granulars from different categories to make your job easy. Now you notice the Frac codes between these 3 products are different, but the most important part is the mode of action between the Frac codes is different. Now for spot spraying, I ended up throwing in the biological fungicide cease Frac code 44, so that way you can have something to spot spray without having to stress. Now after you're done slaying that fungus, don't forget to rinse off and wash your equipment thoroughly. The last thing you want to do is spread that fungus to different parts of your lawn, or worse yet, to one of your neighbors. Well guys, if you know somebody who's got necrotic ring spot, or you have necrotic ring spot, follow my steps and just remember, increasing the porosity of the soil is key to successfully controlling necrotic ring spot. If you guys have any questions or concerns, hit me up in the comments. You know where to find me. Until next time, guys, the Pest and Lawn Ginja. Later.